The stars had always called to humanity, but in 2157, they finally answered back. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Earthship Times, Horizon's Edge *, watching the massive alien structure materialize in space before them. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The structure looked like a crystal palace made of light, stretching for kilometers in every direction. Strange symbols glowed along its surface, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Ma'am, they're trying to communicate with us," reported Lieutenant Torres from his station. His hands shook slightly as he worked the controls. First contact with alien life was something humanity had dreamed about for centuries. But now that it was happening, everyone felt scared and excited. The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at beings unlike anything they had ever imagined. The first alien was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to be made of shifting starlight. Its eyes were large and silver, and it moved like it was floating in water. Behind it stood other creatures that looked completely different. One appeared to be made of living metal. Another seemed to be a cloud of energy held in a glass-like container. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the starlight being spoke, its voice somehow appearing directly in their minds. "I am Zeth Ara, speaker for the Galactic Council. We have been watching your species for some time." Captain Chen stepped forward, trying to hide her nervousness. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Times Horizon's Edge *. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship with other intelligent life." Zeth Ara's expression was hard to read, but something about its manner seemed cold. "Peace. Yes, we have studied your concept of peace. We have watched your history, Captain Chen. We know what your species calls peace." The alien gestured, and suddenly the air around them filled with holographic images. Chen and her crew watched in horror as scenes from Earth's history played out around them. Wars, battles, cities burning, forests being cut down, animals going extinct. It was like watching humanity's worst moments, all at once. "In the past 100 years alone," Zeth Ara continued, "your species has fought in over 200 major conflicts. You have driven countless other species on your world to extinction. You consume resources faster than your planet can replace them. You create weapons capable of destroying your entire world, yet you build more of them." Another alien stepped forward, the one that looked like living metal. Its voice sounded like machines grinding together. "I am Nexus Prime of the Collective Intelligence. We have analyzed human behavior patterns. Your species shows all the signs of what we term a virus species. Rapid expansion, resource consumption, and aggressive competition." Captain Chen felt her anger rising, but she forced herself to stay calm. "Those images don't tell our whole story. Yes, we've made mistakes, but we've also created art, music, literature. We've helped each other through disasters. We've learned to work together." "Have you?" asked a third alien, this one appearing as a floating sphere of blue energy. "Your own planet still suffers from the wars you fight. Your people still go hungry while others have too much. You have not even achieved harmony on a single world, yet you seek to spread to the stars." The holographic images changed, showing more recent events. Human space missions, the first Mars colonies, mining operations in the asteroid belt. But the aliens had chosen specific moments. Accidents that killed people. Arguments between different nations about territory. Competition between corporations. Your expansion into space follows the same pattern. Zeth Ara said. Competition, conflict, and consumption. In the 3 months since you achieved faster-than-light travel, you have already begun arguing about who controls which star systems. Chen knew it was true. Even now, back on Earth, different nations and corporations were fighting over mining rights and territorial claims in space. But that wasn't the whole picture. "We're still learning," she said. "Every species has growing pains. We're trying to be better." Zeth Ara tilted its head. "The Galactic Council was formed 10,000 years ago to prevent species like yours from spreading chaos across the galaxy. We have seen what happens when aggressive species are allowed to expand unchecked. Entire civilizations have been destroyed. Peaceful worlds have been turned into battlefields. The metal alien, Nexus Prime, stepped forward again. We have debated what to do about humanity for 50 years, ever since we first detected your radio signals. Some argued for immediate action. Others wanted to wait and see if your species would mature. The evidence now is clear. Captain Chen felt her heart sinking. What evidence? 3 days ago, your military forces fired weapons at an asteroid that was approaching Earth. Zethara explained. That asteroid was one of our observation posts. When faced with something unknown, your first response was violence. We didn't know, Chen protested. If you had told us you were there, we never would have. Would you not? The blue energy alien interrupted. Your own history shows that humans often attack first and ask questions later. This incident merely confirmed what we already knew. Now, the chamber fell silent except for the humming of alien technology. Chen looked around at her crew, seeing the fear and despair in their eyes. Humanity had reached for the stars, only to be judged and found wanting. The Galactic Council has reached a decision, Zethara announced. Humanity will be quarantined to your home system. We cannot allow a species with your destructive tendencies to spread across the galaxy. Automated sentinel stations will be placed at the edge of your solar system. Any attempt to leave will result in the destruction of your vessels. You can't do this, Chen shouted, her diplomatic calm finally breaking. We have the right to explore space, to make our own choices. Rights are earned through responsibility, Nexus Prime replied. When your species learns to live in peace, perhaps this decision will be reconsidered. Until then, you will remain contained. The aliens began to fade from view as the communication link closed. Zethara spoke one last time. This is not punishment, Captain Chen. This is protection. For the galaxy, and perhaps for yourselves. Use this time wisely. The alien structure vanished, leaving the time's horizon's edge times alone in empty space. Captain Chen stared out at the stars that had once seemed so welcoming, now knowing that somewhere out there, invisible barriers were being built to keep humanity trapped forever. On Earth, when news of the quarantine reached world leaders, there was rage, despair, and calls for war. But there was also something else. A determination that would prove the aliens had greatly underestimated what humans could do when they were backed into a corner. The cage was set, but the humans inside it were already beginning to plan. 30 years had passed since the day the galaxy put humanity in a cage. 30 years since the alien sentinels took their positions at the edge of the solar system. Silent guardians that promised death to anyone who tried to leave. Dr. Elena Vasquez floated through the corridors of New Geneva Station, one of the massive space habitats that now orbited Earth. The station was a marvel of engineering that would have been impossible before the quarantine. When humans couldn't expand outward, they had learned to build upward, inward, and in ways that defied old thinking. Another breakthrough in the neural labs, her assistant Marcus reported as she arrived at her office. The new human-AI link is showing incredible results. Elena smiled. The neural interface project had started as a desperate attempt to make their limited resources go further. If humans could link directly with artificial intelligence, they could solve problems faster and more efficiently. What they discovered was something amazing. When human creativity combined with AI logic, they could find solutions that neither could achieve alone. How's the Prometheus project coming along? She asked quietly. Marcus glanced around to make sure they were alone. Dr. Kim says they've successfully mapped 40% of the Sentinel network. The aliens really didn't expect us to be able to hack their systems. Elena nodded. The Prometheus project was humanity's biggest secret. A group of the best hackers, engineers, and computer experts working together to understand and infiltrate the alien technology that held them prisoner. It had taken 15 years just to figure out how the Sentinels communicated with each other. The aliens had made a mistake in their arrogance. They assumed humans would stay primitive, trapped, and helpless. They never imagined that being caged would force humanity to become something new. Elena's personal communicator buzzed. It was her daughter, calling from the Mars colonies. "Hi, Mom," Jessica said, her face appearing on the small screen. Behind her, Elena could see the red landscape of Mars through a transparent dome. The terraforming project hit another milestone today. We've increased atmospheric pressure by another 2%. That's wonderful, honey. Elena smiled. Jessica was part of the generation that had grown up in the cage. But instead of feeling trapped, they saw opportunity everywhere. The Mars colonies had grown from small research outposts to thriving cities. Venus had floating research stations in its upper atmosphere. The asteroid belt was filled with mining operations and manufacturing facilities. When humans couldn't spread to other stars, they had learned to make the most of their own star system. What had started as desperate attempts to use every available resource had become something beautiful. A perfectly balanced system where nothing was wasted and everything had a purpose. Mom, I've been thinking about what you told me about the old days, Jessica said. About how people used to worry about overpopulation and running out of resources. It seems impossible now. It did seem impossible. The closed-loop life support systems they had developed meant that almost everything could be recycled and reused. Fusion reactors provided clean energy. Orbital farms produced more food than Earth ever could. The solar system that the aliens thought would be a prison had become a laboratory for human innovation. Dr. Vasquez, you need to see this. Marcus burst into her office, his eyes wide with excitement. The Prometheus team just intercepted a communication between the Sentinels and the Galactic Council. Elena hurried to the secure communication room deep in the station. Dr. Sarah Kim, the Prometheus project leader, was waiting with a team of other scientists and engineers. On the main screen was a stream of alien text that was slowly being translated by their computers. We've been monitoring their communications for months, Dr. Kim explained. Most of it is routine status reports. But this morning, something changed. There's been some kind of emergency session of the Galactic Council. The translated text appeared on screen. Sentinel Network Report. Anomalous activity detected in quarantine zone. Human technological advancement exceeding all projections. Recommend immediate reassessment of containment protocols. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. They're noticing our progress. There's more, Dr. Kim continued. We intercepted part of the Council's response. They're arguing among themselves. Some want to tighten the quarantine. Others are asking questions about whether the quarantine is necessary anymore. Another message appeared. Council member Zeth Ara argues for enhanced surveillance. Council member Korthdal requests permission to establish diplomatic contact. Motion denied, 3-1-16. Korthdal? Elena frowned. That's not one of the species we met 30 years ago. Dr. Kim nodded. We think there are members of the Council who disagree with the quarantine. The problem is, they're outnumbered. Elena studied the data flowing across the screens. For 30 years, humanity had been preparing for this moment, the day when they would have to prove they deserved freedom. But now she realized they might not get the chance to prove anything. If the Council decided to tighten the quarantine, all their progress could be for nothing. How close are we to completing the network infiltration? She asked. Maybe 6 more months, Doctor, Kim replied. We've placed backdoors in most of the Sentinel systems, but we need to be absolutely sure we can control them all at once. If we try to break out and fail, Elena knew what she meant. If they failed, the Council would never trust them again. There would be no second chances. There's something else, Marcus said quietly. Our long-range sensors have picked up something strange at the edge of the galaxy. Ships moving in patterns we don't recognize, and they're not from any of the Council species. Elena looked at the sensor data. Strange energy signatures, moving in formations that seemed almost random, but somehow purposeful. What do you think it is? We don't know, Marcus admitted. But whatever it is, it's big. Really big. And it's heading toward the galaxy. Doctor, Kim pulled up more data. If our calculations are right, whatever this is, will reach Council space in about 3 years. Elena stared at the information, her mind racing. For 30 years, humanity had been preparing to break free from their cage. Now it seemed like something was coming that might change everything, for humans and aliens alike. Keep monitoring both the alien communications and these unknown contacts, she ordered, and accelerate the Prometheus project timeline. I have a feeling we're going to need our freedom sooner than we thought. As she left the secure room, Elena looked out through the station's huge windows at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council continued their ancient routines, secure in their belief that they had contained humanity's dangerous nature. They had no idea that the species they thought they had caged had spent 30 years learning, growing, and preparing for the day when the cage would no longer be enough to hold them. And that day was coming faster than anyone expected. The first sign that something was terribly wrong came when the long-range sensors at Pluto Station went completely silent. Admiral Jackson Hayes stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching the tactical display with growing concern. For 3 days, they had been tracking the unknown contacts that were moving through the outer galaxy. Now those contacts had reached Council space, and the results were devastating. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," reported Lieutenant Commander Patel. It's not from the Council. The signal is coming from outside the quarantine zone." "Put it through," Hayes ordered. The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at an alien unlike any they had seen before. This one was clearly from a warrior culture. Scarred, with bone-like armor covering its body, and fierce yellow eyes that seemed to burn with inner fire. "Humans of Earth," the alien spoke in accented but clear English. "I am War Singer Korthdal, of the Korthani clans. We have little time, so I will speak plainly. Your galaxy is being invaded by entities we call the Devourers. The Galactic Council is failing to stop them." Admiral Hayes leaned forward. "Why are you telling us this?" "The Council made it clear they don't want anything to do with humanity." Korthdal's expression became even more grim. "Because I have studied your species' military history. The Council fights with 10,000 years of rigid doctrine and careful planning. The Devourers care nothing for such things. They adapt, they consume, they destroy. You humans understand such warfare." The image changed, showing space battles unlike anything the humans had ever seen. Council ships moved in perfect formations, firing energy weapons in coordinated patterns. But their enemies were nightmare creatures, shifting masses of dark energy that seemed to eat light itself. Every time a Council ship was destroyed, the Devourers grew larger and stronger. "What exactly are these Devourers?" Hayes asked. "We do not know for certain," Korthdal admitted. "They appeared 3 months ago at the galaxy's edge. They consume matter and energy, leaving nothing behind. 17 Council worlds have already fallen. The survivors speak of creatures that exist partially in our dimension and partially somewhere else." Hayes watched the tactical displays with professional interest. The Council's strategy was clear. Form defensive lines, fall back slowly, make the enemy pay for every advance. It was solid military doctrine, but it was also predictable. And from what he could see, the Devourers were learning from each engagement. "The Council debates endlessly about proper response protocols," Korthdal continued. "Many species believe that maintaining traditional order is more important than adapting to this threat. Others, like my people, believe that survival requires new thinking. And you think humans have that new thinking?" Korthdal's fierce smile showed rows of sharp teeth. "Humans are chaos fighters. You adapt mid-battle. You use strategies that should not work, but somehow do. You turn defeats into victories through pure stubbornness. This is exactly what is needed now." The transmission was suddenly interrupted by alarms throughout Luna Base. Admiral Hayes turned to his communications officer. "What is it?" "Sir, we're detecting massive explosions in the outer system. The Sentinel stations. They're under attack." The main display switched to long-range sensors showing the edge of the solar system. The alien Sentinel stations that had guarded humanity for 30 years were fighting for their lives against dark shapes that seemed to absorb light. Even as they watched, one of the massive stations simply vanished, consumed by something that hurt to look at directly. "The Devourers have reached your system," Korthdal said grimly. "The Council is in full retreat. Many of their ships are falling back to defended positions, abandoning outer territories." Admiral Hayes made a decision that would change everything. All hands, this is Admiral Hayes. Activate Prometheus Protocol immediately. All ships, prepare for combat operations outside the quarantine zone. Throughout the solar system, the most secret project in human history finally revealed itself. The backdoors and infiltrations that the Prometheus project had spent 30 years carefully placing in the Sentinel network all activated at once. Instead of trying to destroy the alien stations, the humans took control of them. Dr. Sarah Kim's voice came over the communications system from Earth. Admiral, we have complete control of the Sentinel network. The stations are responding to our commands. Hayes smiled grimly. Good. Turn them around and use them to fight the Devourers. Let's see how these invaders handle human-controlled alien technology. The remaining Sentinel stations suddenly changed their behavior completely. Instead of the precise, predictable patterns they had used for 30 years, they began moving in chaotic, unpredictable ways. They used hit-and-run tactics, struck from unexpected angles, and coordinated in ways that seemed impossible. More importantly, human ships began pouring out of the inner system. Sleek vessels that incorporated both human innovation and captured alien technology. Ships that could adapt their weapons and defenses in real time based on what they encountered. Korthdal watched in amazement as the human fleet engaged the Devourers. Incredible. Your ships fight like living creatures, not machines. That's because they're linked to our neural interface systems, Hayes explained. The ships are extensions of their crew's minds. They can think and adapt faster than any programmed response. But even as the humans fought successfully at the edge of their system, worse news was arriving from the galaxy beyond. The Galactic Council was tearing itself apart in civil war. Some species wanted to maintain the old ways even in the face of extinction. Others demanded immediate adaptation and new alliances. And a few, led by hardliners like Zethara, blamed the humans for somehow causing the invasion. Council member Zethara has declared that humanity must be destroyed, Korthdal reported. She claims that your violent nature has attracted the Devourers to our galaxy. She is gathering ships for an assault on your system. Admiral Hayes felt his anger rising. Even facing extinction, some aliens still wanted to blame humanity for everything. Let them come. We'll show them what humans do when backed into a corner. But Dr. Kim had a different idea. Admiral, what if we don't wait for them to come to us? The quarantine is broken anyway. Our ships are already outside the system. Why don't we take the fight to them? Hayes considered this. For 30 years, humanity had been forced to think defensively, to make do with what they had, to survive in isolation. But humans weren't meant to hide behind walls. They were meant to solve problems, to adapt, to help others even when those others didn't deserve it. You're right, he decided. All ships, set course for the nearest council system under Devourer attack. It's time to show the galaxy what humans are really capable of. As the human fleet left their home system for the first time in 30 years, they carried with them more than just weapons and ships. They carried a completely different way of thinking about warfare, cooperation, and what it meant to survive. The galaxy was about to learn that the species they had caged hadn't been contained at all. They had been learning, growing, and preparing for the day when they would be needed most. That day had finally arrived. The human fleet arrived at the Kepler 442 system, just as the Council's defense fleet was being torn apart. Captain Maria Santos watched from the bridge of the Times Terra, rising times as massive Council dreadnoughts fired their weapons uselessly at the dark shapes that consumed light itself. The Devourers moved like living shadows, appearing and disappearing without warning, each attack making them larger and stronger. Their energy weapons are actually feeding the Devourers, reported her tactical officer. Every shot makes them bigger, Santos nodded grimly. The Council had been fighting the same way for 10,000 years. Massive formations, overwhelming firepower, predictable tactics. Against the Devourers, it was worse than useless. All ships, switch to kinetic weapons only, she ordered. No energy weapons until we understand what we're dealing with. And remember, we're not here to show off. We're here to save lives. The human fleet split into dozens of smaller groups, each moving independently but coordinating through their quantum communication networks. Instead of forming battle lines, they moved like a school of fish, flowing around the Devourer's attacks and striking from unexpected angles. The results were immediate. Solid projectiles and explosive warheads hurt the Devourers in ways that energy weapons couldn't. More importantly, the chaotic human tactics confused the creatures, who had learned to predict and counter the Council's rigid strategies. War Singer Korthdal's voice came over the communication system. "Impressive, humans. You have saved 3 Council ships already. But there are too many Devourers. Even your tactics cannot win against such numbers." Captain Santos studied the tactical display. Korthdal was right. There were hundreds of the creatures, and more were arriving every minute. But there was something about their movement patterns that bothered her. They seemed almost desperate. "Dr. Chen, what's your analysis of their behavior?" she asked her science officer. Dr. Lisa Chen had been studying the Devourers since the battle began. "Captain, I don't think they're attacking randomly. Look at this pattern." She put up a display showing the creatures' movements over the past hour. "They're not trying to destroy everything. They're consuming specific things, energy sources, matter with high atomic density, anything that could provide sustenance." Santos frowned. "Sustenance? You think they're hungry?" "More than hungry. I think they're starving." An idea began forming in Santos's mind. It was crazy. But crazy ideas had gotten humanity this far. "Dr. Chen, can you find a way to communicate with them?" Her crew stared at her in shock. Even through the quantum link, she could hear other ship captains expressing disbelief. "You didn't talk to cosmic horrors. You fought them." But Dr. Chen was already working. "Captain, I'm detecting quantum fluctuations in their energy signatures. It might be possible to modulate our communications array to match their frequency." "Do it." While Dr. Chen worked, the battle continued around them. The human fleet had managed to stop the Devourer's advance, but barely. Council reinforcements were arriving, led by ships flying Zethara's personal banner. Santos knew that meant trouble. "Captain Santos," came Zethara's cold voice over the communication system. "You will withdraw immediately. Humanity has no authority to interfere in galactic affairs." "People are dying, Zethara," Santos replied. "We're here to help. Your presence here violates the quarantine. When this battle is over, you will be destroyed for your crimes." Santos was about to respond when Dr. Chen suddenly gasped. "Captain, I'm getting something. The communication array is receiving responses from the Devourers." The main screen filled with chaotic imagery. Shapes that hurt to look at. Sounds that seemed to bypass the ears and go straight to the brain. But slowly, patterns emerged. Dr. Chen's translation programs began making sense of the alien communication. Words began appearing on screen. Hunger. Dying. Home. Gone. Need. Please. Santos felt her breath catch. "They're not invaders. They're refugees." Dr. Chen nodded excitedly. "Captain, I think they're from another dimension. Their universe is dying, and they've been forced to come here to survive. They don't understand that they're hurting people. They just know they need energy to live." The implications hit Santos like a physical blow. The galaxy had been fighting a war against creatures that were essentially cosmic refugees fleeing a dying universe. The Council's response had been to attack them, making them more desperate and dangerous. "Dr. Chen, can you tell them we want to talk?" "I can try, Captain." The communication array sent out carefully modulated signals toward the nearest group of Devourers. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the dark shapes stopped their attack and began moving in patterns that seemed almost curious. More words appeared on screen. "Talk? Not? Attack?" Santos took a deep breath. "Tell them we understand they're hungry. Tell them we want to help them find food that won't hurt anyone." The response came back faster this time. "Help? Others only. Attack. Hurt. Make us angry. You. Different. Why?" Ah, because we know what it's like to be judged unfairly, Santos said quietly. Dr. Chen, tell them about dead planets, asteroid fields, empty space between stars. Tell them there are places they can feed without hurting anyone. While Dr. Chen worked to communicate with the Devourers, the Council fleet was growing larger. Zethara's flagship, a massive crystal structure bristling with weapons, moved into attack position. Captain Santos, Zethara's voice was filled with fury. You are communicating with the enemy. This is proof of humanity's corruption. All ships, target the human vessels. But before the Council ships could fire, something unexpected happened. The Devourers moved between the Council fleet and the humans, their communications increasing in urgency. Protect. Helpers. Protect. Those who understand. Umber down. Warsinger Korthdal's laugh boomed across the communication channels. Zethara, it appears your cosmic destroyers are protecting the humans from us. Santos realized that this was humanity's chance to prove what they were truly capable of. Not just fighting, not just surviving, but finding solutions where others saw only problems. All ships, begin transmitting star charts showing uninhabited systems, she ordered. Dr. Chen, work with the Devourers to identify places they can feed safely. And someone get me a line to Earth. We're going to need help setting up a proper first contact protocol. Around them, the battle had stopped. Council ships hung motionless in space, their crews watching in amazement as humans and Devourers worked together to solve a problem that had seemed impossible just hours before. Zethara's voice came across the communication system one more time, but now it sounded uncertain. What? What are you doing? Captain Santos smiled. What humans do best. We're turning enemies into friends, problems into solutions, and war into something better. For the first time in galactic history, a crisis was being resolved not through force, but through understanding. And it was humanity, the species deemed too dangerous for galactic civilization, that had shown the way. 5 years after the end of the Devourer crisis, Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood in the central chamber of Synthesis Station, looking out at the most unusual diplomatic gathering in galactic history. The station itself was a marvel. Built where Earth's quarantine zone used to be, it was part human engineering, marvel, part alien technology, and part something entirely new. Floating gardens designed by the artistic Zephyrians grew alongside human hydroponic farms. Nixari computational centers worked with human neural interfaces to solve problems at impossible speeds, and in the deep spaces of the station, devourer entities called shapers helped convert raw matter into whatever was needed. The quarterly resource reports, Ambassador, her assistant David said, handing her a tablet. The numbers still amazed her. The galaxy was producing more food, energy, and materials than ever before, while using fewer raw resources. It turned out that when devourers were given the right kind of matter to consume, they could transform waste into useful materials with perfect efficiency. How are the new member applications coming along? Elena asked. 3 more species applied to join the collaborative this month, David replied. The Thorani from the Outer Rim, the Queth cloud mines from the galactic core, and... This is interesting. A group of former council hardliners who call themselves the Reformed Unity. Elena smiled. The collaborative collective had started as a desperate alliance during the crisis, but it had grown into something much bigger. Unlike the old Galactic Council, which had demanded conformity and strict rules, the collaborative encouraged each species to contribute their unique abilities to solve common problems. The main chamber's doors opened, and in walked an impossible sight that still made Elena happy every time she saw it. Warsinger Korthdal, his bone armor decorated with human friendship symbols, walked alongside a shifting cloud of energy that was Dr. Voidsinger, one of the devourer entities that had become the galaxy's most valuable resource recycling specialists. Behind them came representatives of 43 different species, including some that would have been unthinkable allies just 5 years ago. Former council enforcers worked with human rebels, Ancient wise species collaborated with young, energetic cultures. Even Zethara was there, though she looked uncomfortable. "Elena, my friend," Korthdal said warmly. "The integration projects continue to exceed all expectations. The mining operations in the vegan system are producing raw materials at twice the projected rate, thanks to Devourer assistance." Dr. Voidsinger's communication came through the translation system as harmonious musical tones. "The work brings joy. To create instead of consume, to build instead of devour. Your species taught us new ways of existing." Elena nodded. The transformation of the Devourers from cosmic threats to willing partners had been one of humanity's greatest achievements. It turned out that the creatures had been desperate for purpose beyond simple survival. Given meaningful work and a stable source of energy, they had become some of the most helpful beings in the galaxy. "What's the status on the exploration missions?" she asked. Korthdal grinned. "The joint human-Korthani expeditions have discovered 12 new inhabitable worlds in previously unexplored regions. 3 show signs of primitive life that we're careful to protect. And, Dr. Voidsinger's people have found 17 dead systems that are perfect for devourer feeding grounds. The old Galactic Council would have claimed those worlds immediately, dividing them up according to ancient territorial agreements. The collaborative worked differently. They found the best use for each discovery and shared the benefits." Zethara finally spoke up, her voice still cold but no longer hostile. "I admit that your methods have produced unexpected results, but I still believe that order and structure are necessary for galactic stability." Elena turned to face the alien, who had once condemned humanity to eternal isolation. "You're absolutely right, Zethara. Order and structure are important, but they have to be flexible enough to grow and change when new situations arise. The Harmony Protocol served the galaxy for 10,000 years, Zethara insisted, and it would have led to the extinction of everyone in the galaxy. Elena replied gently. "Your old system couldn't adapt to the Devourer threat. It took chaos, creativity, and willingness to try new ideas to find a solution." Dr. Voidsinger's musical voice added to the conversation. The old speakers feared change. They saw difference as danger. The new alliance sees difference as strength. That was perhaps the biggest change of all. The old council had tried to eliminate differences between species, to force everyone to follow the same rules and think the same way. The collaborative celebrated differences, finding ways for each species' unique abilities to contribute to the whole. "Speaking of new ideas," David interrupted, "we just received a message from the Andromeda Galaxy. They've been monitoring our transmissions and want to establish diplomatic contact." Elena felt her heart race with excitement. "Another galaxy wants to talk to us?" According to their message, they've been watching how we resolved the Devourer crisis and the transformation of our own civilization. They say they have some challenges that they think we might be able to help with. Korthdal laughed, a sound that would have been terrifying to anyone who didn't know him. "It seems your reputation for solving impossible problems is spreading beyond our own galaxy." Elena looked around the chamber at the diverse group of beings who had come together to build something new. 5 years ago, she had been part of a species trapped in their own solar system, judged too dangerous for galactic civilization. Now, humanity was at the center of an alliance that was reshaping the galaxy and reaching out to other galaxies as well. "David, prepare a response to the Andromeda message," she decided. "Tell them we'd be honored to open diplomatic relations. And let them know that we don't just solve problems. We turn challenges into opportunities." As the diplomatic session continued, Elena reflected on how much had changed. The galaxy was no longer divided between civilized species and dangerous ones. Instead, it was a place where difference was valued, where innovation was encouraged, and where the answer to conflict was cooperation rather than domination. The old Galactic Council had tried to stop humanity because they feared chaos and change. They never imagined that chaos and change might be exactly what the galaxy needed to survive and thrive. Now, as humanity prepared to reach out to other galaxies and face whatever challenges lay ahead, Elena knew that the species that had once been caged had become the key to unlocking the universe's potential. The stars that had once seemed forbidden were calling again. But this time humanity wasn't reaching for them alone. They were reaching alongside friends, partners, and allies from across the galaxy, ready to face whatever wonders and challenges awaited them in the infinite cosmos beyond. And somewhere in the quantum communications networks that connected the collaborative's far-flung territories, a simple message was being transmitted to other galaxies. To any civilization that believes in the power of adaptation over stagnation, of growth over fear, the galaxy welcomes you. We are no longer bound by the limits of what was, but driven by the possibilities of what might be.